Party rock anthem. That's right there. That's LMFAO, which I don't think I want to say what that actually stands for. Hopefully you already know anyways. Dan RadioStyle. Yeah, how you guys doing out there? Hopefully fantabulous. I know I am as well. I was reading some more Wayne Dyer this morning, and I get seriously, it's so sad how little time I have these days to do stuff like read. It is such a precious commodity. But the concept of proof was kind of brought up, and I love that concept. I love the fact that for so many people, and there's nothing wrong, there's no judgment here. I'm just talking about things, right? But the concept of proof, so many people out there want proof. How do I know? How do I know? Knowing's proof. I don't think there's any doubt in that for all of us, right? So for many of us, we want to know in advance about this thing that we call spirituality, or this thing called law of attraction, or this thing life after death, for example. Trying to prove there's a soul, for example. Again, to me, all these things are interrelated. If law of attraction does exist, then it implies there's sort of this intelligence behind nature, behind reality, right? And if we have these souls, then obviously we have this extended piece of ourselves that lives eternally. And whatever this life concept is, be it we just come in and do this once and that's it, we pop in, pop out, or for some reason we're created when we come in and we sort of live on after, or we've done this numerous times, which is what I personally believe. And in many different environments. Some of us, like I've talked about in another weird show out there, but some of us are from other star systems, possibly, right? Maybe we've been evolving and doing evolution in the Pleiades star system, for example, or the Sirius star system, and that's where we've been doing our last, so many thousands of incarnations. But again, what is this proof that we seek, and why is it so necessary? And one of the things that I think stops a lot of people in the concept of law of attraction, or in the concept of religious beliefs for sure, is we find ourselves in places where we're listening to other people. We're having people tell us. Now, many people would cite certain literature or books, for example, Bible, Quran, Torah. There's probably a bunch of them, right? That we would say, well, because this book says it is therefore true. I've heard a lot of people say things similar with Goddard. I mean, that's very common with most people, is we find people that are capable of demonstrating some amazing acts. Christ comes to example. I'm sure Buddha is an example, like Muhammad, all these different prophets and wonderful people that have come here and shown us wonderful secrets. Here's how you live. Here's this thing. I'm coming from the other side. It's like coming from the future and coming to visit the past and saying, okay, so I just want to let you know in the future they got flying cars, and they're like, no way, that's magic. There's no way you'll ever fly in the air. And it's like, yeah, believe it or not, we'll do it. It's pretty fantastic. What? You can put like all of the books we have in the whole world on that little device you're holding? Yes, I can in fact fit the entire world in the palm of my hand, right? Again, these things would seem impossible to people, and proving it would be certainly difficult as well. But the other side of it is, whenever we've had people come and show us the reality of things, the reality of nature, the reality of life after death, the reality of law of attraction, we tend to deify them. And that's what most of them, if you truly read their writings, it's what most of them are against. They're like, no, I'm just like you. And they're like, no, you're like way better than me because you're magic. And it's like, no. I've just been practicing this longer. So why am I saying all this? Well, the reason I'm saying all this is I think the concept of proof is an amazing thing, because what proof generally means is somebody is going to hand you something that will demonstrate to you that this, in fact, is so. That's what proof usually is. What's beautiful about this path, and this is why it is so fond to me and why I love it so much, is this path you get to prove to yourself. That is an amazing thing when you think about it for a second. You're going to walk down this law of attraction road. Many of us have. And please comment. Those of you that have done some cool stuff, throw a couple examples in there. Couple examples. Don't get carried away. We're not trying to write your life story here, but what we're trying to do is demonstrate to others, especially people that are new in this whole process, that this is something that at first you're going to question it, and you should. That's perfectly natural and healthy. If you're not questioning it, then you're kind of like one of these people that wants to deify somebody. And that's not what this is about. What this is about is creating your understanding of law of attraction through paying attention to what you think, what you say, and what you do, and then what's happening to you around that. Because that truly is where the proof is, or as they say, the proof is in the pudding, right? That's the pudding. The pudding is, I'm thinking, I'm saying, I'm doing, and this is my reality. And then factor in beliefs, because that's the other part of it. As I've talked frequently, what you think, what you say, what you do is how you manifest. Beliefs are what shape your manifestation. So you might be saying, I want to have $1 billion, but I believe people with money are evil. Well, I've got a contradictory set of beliefs, and what I'll find probably in that life or in my situation is the money's not necessarily coming. Why? Well, I hate people with money, and I want money. Then I would have to hate myself. That sort of breaks rule number 1. You've got to love yourself, right? So again, it's that concept of we prove it to ourselves as we spend time doing it. The same thing I recommend with your relationship with your creator or with higher self or with source, with universe, with whatever you wish to call this energy, this intelligence, this whatever. Having your own understanding of it versus listening to what everyone else tells you is vastly superior because they have no proof either. No one's got proof. There is no proof. It's impossible to prove. But to ourselves, we can prove it through the practice of doing these in coincidences repeated over and over and over and over. And eventually at some point you've got to say, don't really think this is a coincidence anymore. Watch, I'll demonstrate it again. Boom, did it again. Boom, did it again. Boom. Yeah, there's something to it. That is how we learn this. That is how we prove this. That is how we evolve to this. Have there been studies done to try to prove the God particle or prove our soul exists? Yeah, a lot of experiments have been done. And even still, when you think about it, when the proof exists, how do we know? It's an electronic thing that's measuring some sort of aura around ourselves. I mean, how do we know it's not just picking up static electricity off our skin, right? I mean, who knows? Again, proof, no matter what, when it's done and given to you, can always be scrutinized, questioned, and not believed. But when you walk down the path, when you experience it and prove it to yourself, to myself, to your neighbor's self, when you prove it, it becomes yours. You own it. People can question it to be like, well, that's coincidence. And you'd be like, I can see why you would think that. And it doesn't bother you that they think that. You know it's not true because you've proven it. But when you hadn't had that proof yet, coincidence would definitely be something that you might have called it, right? We called it that. How do I know it's real versus coincidence versus what I'm thinking? How do you know not all three of those things are exactly the same thing, right? I mean, there is no difference. Coincidence, and it's because I'm thinking about it and I'm actually seeing it and it being a legitimate sign. These are all the same thing. We're just giving different names to the same thing. It's levels of how I want to accept it. If I'm not ready to accept it, I'm going to call it a coincidence. When I'm finally ready to accept it, I guess it's something, it's a sign, or it's happening because I'm creating this, and this is a demonstration of that. And it's how I know it's coming. So what I'm suggesting to everybody out there is if you're looking for proof, try to give this a little time for yourself. Read a little bit more, watch a couple more videos, whatever the case is, but allow yourself a little bit through this. Give yourself enough time to be like, wow, this is kind of a trip. And if you see nothing, then don't go down this path. It might not be for you. Maybe not yet. Maybe you're not ready. But if you give it some time, if you work on the things that you're thinking, you're saying, you're doing, and paying attention to what's happening, you will most likely, and in I would say 95% of the cases maybe, you will see interesting things happen. And what you do from there, that's up to you. If you keep moving through these coincidences until they're finally so often that you have to say there's something to it, then you've gone a long way, and that's a huge thing. And you've proven to yourself that this is a very powerful approach to shaping our lives. I hope this kind of helps. It's a little bit of an odd topic, but I think at the same time, what am I looking for? There we go. I think it's a very important way that so many of us have that logic part of ourselves, and then we've got this actual spiritual part of ourselves. And logic and spirit, logic's very rooted in 3-dimension, what's here right now. But feeling someone's higher self, there's absolutely zero physical evidence of that, right? So again, big differences, and logic doesn't really work for a lot of the spiritual concepts and aspects of who we are. And law of attraction certainly falls into that category. Dan RadioStyle, hope everybody's digging it. And we are going out with a great song by Katy Perry. It's called Hot and Cold. It's actually hot in cold, the letter N, right? Because you don't want to actually spell out and. It's way too much. Dan RadioStyle. 'Cause you're hot and you're cold, yeah.